All righty. Hi, welcome to the November 15th, 2023 meeting of the Town of Kennebunkport Planning Board. First, if you're be here or you can be on Zoom to view this meeting. In terms of attendance, we have Scott has said he couldn't make it tonight, and I don't see George yet, but we have well over a quorum. You know, we have five people to vote tonight, so we're in good shape. Approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
Okay.
The whole paragraph.
Yeah, it was about a paragraph.
Approve.
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 Approve. Mike, you get the vote.
Approved.
Okay.
Yeah, our last meeting lasted 5 minutes or so.
Yeah.
So,
Perfect.
anyway, so we go to the agenda. The first item is 21 Norwood Lane, and this is a public hearing ultimately on this, I guess. Does it say that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, there, it's bold, no wonder I didn't see it, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you go ahead, introduce yourself again.
Yep, I'm John Einsiedler, and I'm representing my clients, Kate and Mark Badisher, for the site application on their property, 21 Norwood Lane. Previously, I don't know how much you want me to go into detail, but previously this project was approved by the planning board in June, and when the pricing came in, we were told that it would be much cheaper to tear it down and recreate the plans that had been approved. So that is what we're proposing. If you want me to go in more detail, I can do that, but.
Okay, anybody have anything to add to this? Questions from the board? Well, officially, this is a public hearing, so if anybody of this group of public wishes to discuss this particular happening. This really did happen several months ago, and it's just a quick rehash. But any hands raised?
We have 5 Zoom attendees, but no hands raised.
No hands raised. All right, well, in that case, I will close the public hearing and will entertain a motion.
I would move to approve the application.
I'll second that.
Okay. Approve?
Approve.
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 Approved. Okay, so that finishes that. We will read the finding of facts at the end of the thing, but you don't need to be here for that.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Hey, yeah, 4 minutes this time, that's good. Okay. Now, some substance. The next meeting is the Wilds District Subdivision Beechwood Development Fund. Michael Tadema-Weiland, agent, and I see him back there grabbing drawings. So.
Hi, good evening.
And introduce yourself,
Sure.
even though I did.
Yeah, I'm Mike Tadema-Whelan. I'm a civil engineer at Pterodine Consultants. I'm here with Jeff Bowley, who is the applicant on the project. We were last here in June for a sketch plan review of this project. This is about a 4-acre parcel on Wilds District Road. We're in the village residential zone. The site is largely forested today, undeveloped. There is a gravel, kind of a gravel drive entering the site today from Wilds District Road. And you'll see that the proposed road is, for the most part, in the same location, or a very similar location to that gravel drive. There's about half an acre of wetlands on the site. Wetlands were delineated by Longview Partners, who I know you are all familiar with. The other sort of significant feature adjacent to the site is a pretty good-sized man-made pond. Locally, I think it's referred to as the duck pond. It's located behind the house that kind of abuts this parcel. Why don't I point to it on the map here? So it's located kind of west of the proposed road. And again, that's a man-made pond, and it does have a drainage feature that leaves it to the south, and everything sort of drains south from there. So the proposal is to create a 3-lot traditional subdivision, and by traditional I mean non-clustered. The lots meet all the dimensional requirements of the zone. That is 40,000 square feet in size, and there's just over 20,000 square feet of open space provided, which is just over 15% of the lot, which again meets the dimensional requirement of the zone. And the open space contains kind of a portion or an extension of that duck pond that I mentioned. Clearly, that's the sort of the greatest, I would say, natural resource on the site, and so that's in open space. There are the road construction will include a very small amount of wetland impact. It's all in all, it's approximately 1,500 square feet of wetland impact. That's well below the threshold that would require a DEP permit. The DEP allows up to 1/10 of an acre of wetland impacts without requiring a permit. We will submit an application to the Army Corps of Engineers for those impacts, but that's usually a pretty simple and quick review for something that small that is exempt from DEP review. The other notable feature of the site is when the site was studied, when Longview Partners studied the site for wetlands and vernal pools, it was in I think it was the fall of, or the summer or the fall of 2022. And that, of course, is, as I'm sure you all know, is outside the dates that vernal pools can be identified as either significant habitat or not significant habitat. According to DEP, of a potential vernal pool, which is a depression that is holding water, needs to meet certain criteria in order to qualify as a significant vernal pool, and really those need to be identified in a very short period of time in the spring. And so that potential vernal pool has not been studied in the spring. So we're treating it as a significant vernal pool. So we're assuming the worst, which is really the guidance that DEP gives. They say if you identify a potential vernal pool, it has to be considered significant unless you've studied it and it has been determined to be not significant. So as of today, that's a significant vernal pool, which means only 25% of the area within 250 feet of that vernal pool can be cleared. And so that will affect the buildable area on lots 2 and 3 here. The applicant's intent is to permit or seek approval for the project, start construction, and again, assuming the lots will be constrained by this clearing limit, but that vernal pool will be studied in the spring, and if it is determined to be not significant, then those lot clearing restrictions will be lessened. because again, there won't, those regulations will go away essentially. And I know there's a lot there, so I'm happy to answer any questions you have on that. Wiles District Road has public water and public sewer, both of which will be extended up this the proposed subdivision road. The road itself is about 350 feet long, the proposed road. So all in all, a fairly small development on a 4-acre parcel, 3 lots. I will report that about an hour before coming here, I did receive a comment or an email from an attorney representing some of the abutters, questioning some of the wetland study. Having just received that, again, about an hour and a half ago, I haven't had much time to absorb it. I did talk to Jim Logan from Longview Partners briefly, and Jim has offered to either provide additional information or to come to the next board meeting and speak to the board about those concerns. So that concludes the presentation. So thanks for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I was going to mention the letter from the abutters and make sure that you had also gotten a copy, so. Anybody have any comments on this?
I have a few comments. Sorry, just some housekeeping stuff. You write in your application that you have 2 waivers, and it's actually 3. You might want to correct that.
Yeah, well, it's 2 waivers from, I think, the design standards, and one request from a submission requirement. So thanks for bringing that up. So there are 3 waiver requests. The 2 technical standards are we would requesting to increase the side slope of the road greater than 3 to 1 in wetland crossing areas, and what that does is it reduces the footprint of the wetland impacts. It's a kind of it's a typical measure we take when we do cross wetlands. The second one is the waiver from the requirement for a sidewalk. There is no sidewalk on Wiles District Road, so and frankly, this is a road serving 3 lots. Not a lot of traffic expected, so we respectfully request a waiver from the requirement for a sidewalk. And the third waiver is a request to waive the requirement for a high-intensity soil survey. And a high-intensity soil survey is as most of you know, is really beneficial if you've got septic systems and wells, and you're trying to identify what soils are suitable for subsurface wastewater disposal. In this case, we have a public sewer, so really a high-intensity soil survey won't really benefit us.
Well, doesn't your high-intensity soil survey also affect your house lot, where you put your house?
No.
Okay. And your house lots are not identified on here yet, is that correct?
The lots?
No, the
lots are
house sites,
Oh, the house site, sort of the building envelope.
yes.
There are, the buildings themselves are not. The lots will be sold to individuals and developed by the buyers of the lot. So of course, we don't know what will be built. So
It doesn't stop you from having a building envelope, however.
we do have building envelopes. Those are shown on the plan. If you look at the subdivision plan, sheet C2.0, and all the building envelopes, they're defined by the setbacks on the plan. So, and there are a lot of lines, so on the next version, I can certainly beef it up a little to make it stand out a little more.
Well, my next question is, have you identified significant trees on this plot?
Individual trees, no, we have not.
Okay.
It's a
well,
requirement, so.
Okay,
yes. So,
we will have that ready for the next round.
Anything with a DBH over 15 inches or over. I believe it's 15 in the sub.
You're the tree committee,
I'll check the ordinance.
I think you're
Committee
right.
versus planning board, sometimes they're different. Okay, and I just want to clarify that by way of the P&S agreement, basically, that Beechwood Development is the applicant bringing the, this plan.
Yeah, Jeff
And this-
Bowley is the manager
Right,
of Beechwood
uh-huh.
Development Fund. Yep.
Even though we have a different owner. Okay.
Yes,
By rights of the P&S, and you're the agent.
correct.
Okay, I just want to clarify that. And there's no, you haven't checked off whether there's any portion of the property within 250 feet of a high water mark of a pond, river, other water body?
Yeah, no, not as defined on the shoreland zoning map, which is really what that pertains to, so apologize for not checking that, but
Yeah.
It's
well,
not.
We will need to know that. for
Sure.
Purposes. And you said, no, the parcel doesn't include any water bodies. But
again, my interpretation of that is a water body that is regulated by the shoreline zoning ordinance, and there aren't any.
is it by the shoreline zoning ordinance? I thought it was vernal pools and ponds as well.
As far as water bodies concerned, yes, that would be included, but they have identified the vernal pool as a significant vernal pool with the 250-foot setback.
Okay.
The bigger question, I think, in regards to that, excuse me, is that on the plan, the drainage area that they're calling a drainage easement coming from the man-made pond across the property where the significant vernal pool could be, is whether or not that's actually a stream or not.
Yeah,
Yeah, and again, Jim Logan has looked at it, and he has determined it's not a stream. So he'll provide, we've asked him to provide some additional information on that,
Right,
and
so-
come to speak to you all
So
about that.
to define it as a stream, you'd need to have water in it for at least 6 months and a scoured base. If it doesn't have both, then it would not be considered a stream. So we ought to have that information from Jim as to whether or not
Yeah.
that determination's been
Will
made.
do, certainly, yep.
okay. Sidewalks, septic. Clarify for me, what are peak hours on the traffic engineer's manual?
So peak hours are, there's an AM and there's a PM peak hour.
Right,
Off the top of my head, it essentially corresponds to like morning rush hour and afternoon rush hour, when people are leaving for work and when people are coming home from work. Again, off the top of my head, I'm not sure, I think it's 5 to 6 o'clock, between 5 and 6, I think is considered the peak hour
and you
for
only,
single-family residential.
well, in a single family, you're showing 3 trips for 3 lots.
Mm-hmm.
And most families today have 2 working members at least.
So these numbers come from they're published by the Institute of Traffic Engineers. It's not a number I make up based on.
Yeah, we've dealt with them before, and sometimes they seem awfully low. Okay. I don't have any other questions at this, oh, wait a minute. Are you gonna get the fire marshal to sign off on that hammerhead?
I certainly, the fire marshal,
The fire
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 chief.
chief.
I certainly can. It was designed, I know the Acorn Engineering, the town's engineer, I know created a series of designs for hammerheads and roundabouts recently, and so this is based on that, but we certainly can run it by him, yep.
Yeah. And the last thing is I'll point out a typo in the bank's letter, which
Okay.
indicates that you only need $50,000 basically for this whole thing.
Okay, yes. It'll probably be a little more than that.
Yes. That's That's
Okay,
all that I have.
Thank you,
all
Nina.
right. Larry?
Well, thanks for this. This looks very, very interesting. I was also a little bit confused on the application. You know, you've got the applicant is Michael Prendergast, then you have the applicant slash authorized agent is Beechwood, and then you have the engineer is Michael Tadema Wheatland. So, could you clarify that?
I can, yeah. So Mr. Prendergast owns the property, he owns it.
He's the owner.
He's the owner.
Okay,
And Beechwood Development Fund, which is managed by Jeff,
all right.
he has a purchase and sale agreement on it. So
Okay.
he has an
So-
option to buy it,
So Beechwood Development is the prospective owner,
correct, and applicant,
okay?
in my mind anyways,
So you're speaking on behalf of the applicant,
correct.
okay? All right, just wanted to double check. And then, thanks for that. So then, for the vernal pool, 25% of the area within 250 feet of the vernal pool can be cleared, right? So I saw your line there, that looks really great.
Yep.
So that would be, so basically on each of lots 2 and 3, only 10,000 square feet could be cleared on each of them, 25%? That would include everything.
No, so it would be 25% of the area, so that circle, that 250-foot radius drawn around the vernal pool, that's considered, DEP calls that the critical terrestrial habitat.
Okay.
So that's based on biology, where are these critters, they're breeding in the pool and hatching in the pool, and then they crawl out of the pool, and they use the surrounding uplands and the area surrounding. So that 250 feet is considered habitat. DEP says 75% of that habitat that's on your lot, so this doesn't include, that area extends off this lot as well, right? But we're only talking about the part of this habitat that's on this parcel, on the total subdivision. 75% of that needs to remain as forested with a canopy, continuous tree canopy. So the remaining 25% is allowed to be cleared. So when you take the total area, so it's not necessarily it's not necessarily 10,000. It's 25% of that area that's on this lot. And
So lot 3, it would essentially be.
Well, but that's my point. So the area that can be cleared is not necessarily on a per lot basis, it's for the whole area.
correct.
So you could basically clear all of lot 3, presumably, if that was less
But
than 25.
then you wouldn't be able to do anything on lot 2.
Well, but just hypothetically, but then that would be, if that was less than 25% of the whole total area, you could do that.
Correct.
Okay, so, okay, that's good, thank you.
And
Do you have a number for what is because you've got the shape of your property,
I do,
and
yeah.
then the 250 feet, so what's that, and then what's 25%, and that's what lot 1, 2, and 3 are gonna have to deal with.
Right, and I don't have that number in front of me. We've looked at it and kind of assigned some preliminary areas to each lot. So lot 1, I think, the developed area or the building envelope on lot 1 will stay completely out of that 250 foot
Yeah.
Not
critical
happening-
terrestrial
Not
habitat.
happening on 3, though.
Right, 2 and 3, they will essentially share that allowed 25% clearing. And so we will assign values to each of those lots in the next round of plans.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. Mike, one of the things you may want to do, being in the position I'm in, I always get tricks of the trade from other firms and stuff, is if you can either hash that 25% on those lots to show what can be impacted, or shade it in a different shading.
We can do
That would
that.
be a really helpful visual.
We can absolutely do that, yeah.
So then my last comment is, so I was happy to hear you're going to evaluate this lot again in the spring for vernal pools and I guess, to determine if the drainage area is a stream or just part of a wetlands. So are you gonna come back with an updated application then, even if you're underway? I mean, how's this
I
gonna
think
work?
we would, that's a good question. And I guess, I think the applicant's preference would be to come out with a conditional approval. So we would seek approval, assuming that this is a significant vernal pool, and we're limiting the cleared area within these lots to 25% of the habitat. But if we come back and study it in the spring, and it's determined, first of all, if it's determined to be significant, then that's it, right? Our assumption was correct, and the restriction on clearing stands. If it's found to be not significant, then I think it would be reasonable for the applicant to provide evidence of that, and that would really be a study from a wetland scientist and confirmation from the state, from Inland Fisheries and Wildlife, that they have accepted the study and accepted the fact that it's not significant habitat. And then those clearing limits would essentially revert to something less restrictive.
Right. And,
But
but
if we've already approved the final plan then you would have to come back with a revised plan?
Again, I would
Or would-
propose we wouldn't, because again, it's an either or. If it's significant vernal pool, then it's restricted to this level of clearing. If it's not significant, then that restriction goes away. So
Mike, are you suggesting that you're going to provide a plan that shows both options and you want us to approve both of them? Only one which would be allowed if you got further permissions?
Yeah, or I think that information could be on a single plan even potentially. I mean, the alternative would be.
Well, I think we're saying right now that the plans, it's very hard to see the building envelopes. You're suggesting that you could alter it so as to be able to show clearly two different options. I'm skeptical, I guess.
Okay.
But,
Yeah,
go for it.
Understood. So the other option would be seek approval, assuming it's a significant vernal pool.
Right.
And in the spring, if it turns out it's not significant, we could come back for an amended approval.
If you had to, but it might be just as, might have perfectly fine, no reason to particularly not stop cutting trees either. It could
Yep.
be fine,
Yes.
even though it's just a plain old vernal pool. It's still nice to protect it.
Absolutely, yeah.
so, to conclude my thought, another issue there is that very thin wetland area that may or may not be a stream, because I mean, that could actually affect your setback as well, right? If that
It
turned out
could.
to be a
So
stream.
again, the wetland scientists working on behalf of the applicant it has opined that it is not a stream. If it is found, in fact, to be a stream, then there would be a 75-foot setback applied to that by the state, DEP. The DEP would allow impact within 25 feet of that stream with a permit by rule. So in order to develop some of those lots, a homeowner, presumably, could apply could submit a PBR to impact within 25 feet of the stream. But no impacts would be allowed within 25 feet of it if it is in fact found to be a stream. But again, we've had someone look at this with a close eye, and we asked the question on day one of him, is that a stream? Because it's a channel, it's channelized, right? And it's the outlet of that man-made pond. So we asked him on day one, please tell us if it's a stream, and it's his opinion that it's not, so.
So would spring conditions affect that determination?
I don't think so, but that's a question Jim would be better suited to answer. I think, like Lee mentioned, there are some criteria, and to me, when I go out there and I look at a channel like this, what I'm looking for is a gravelly bottom, right? If there's stone, it's not, if sand or gravel on the bottom, because it's been scoured. If you see topsoil and that sort of thing, it's muddy and mucky, then it doesn't meet the definition, the state's definition of a stream. And so that's what I look at when I go out there, but there's more to it than that. And Jim, again, would be able to get into that a little more.
Okay, so you'll come back to us with some updates on this at the next meeting, I guess?
Yeah.
Okay?
Mike, does that CMP easement, do they keep that cleared?
It is cleared, yeah. Yeah.
So would that be,
That said, the poles are not, the poles don't follow that easement.
they don't,
Not exactly.
did they clear into the poles?
They cleared to the pole line.
Would that be considered part of cleared area?
Yes, it would, in the calculation for that 25% clearing, it absolutely would, yeah.
I don't
So
think it
the easement's
overlaps.
entirely outside. That's the point, I mean, so.
Mr. Chairman, we have a hand raised in the Zoom audience.
This is not a public hearing until until 2 weeks from hence, and so we will not be accepting public comments at this point.
Can I assume in the area that's considered habitat and so forth, you would write into a homeowner's agreement that no trees, things can be cleared without approval?
Yes. Yes, that would be, there would certainly be restrictions on clearing within that habitat area.
Are we gonna see the draft HOA for the final?
Yes. And it will be similar to others you've seen before. But we can certainly tailor it to specific concerns, such as the clearing within this habitat.
I would also recommend, since you've got a lot of sensitive area in there, that you put restrictions on lawn chemicals and pesticides.
You had mentioned clearing or impacting wetland areas.
Yes.
There's the kind of 2 with the drive coming in on 1 and 3, that's all 3 of those add up to the number you gave us?
Yes. Yep, so for instance, at the beginning of the road, if you look at
Yeah, I'm looking
sheet
at-
C 2.0,
Yeah, that's the one I got out.
yeah, the first one's about 580
There's, okay.
or
But
so.
all 3 of those were included in that because
Yep.
one's gonna go away with the building on lot
Correct.
3.
Correct,
Okay.
yeah.
Then I guess for lot 1 and the road, some additional kind of erosion control and issues, so you're not, flowing into the wetlands, into the pond or into the pond.
Yes,
Because you're gonna need that, depending on where the building, so you don't impact the neighboring property with how you grade it and where you got runoff going and everything.
correct. Yeah, for erosion control, typically we would double the perimeter measures. So you're probably familiar with silt fence, it goes up around a cleared area. We would do 2 layers of silt fence when we're adjacent to a resource like that.
Then it may be a semantics thing, but I just noticed that it indicated on the first page of the cover that residential area was 2.8, and then in the application, it was acreage to be developed 1.9. So is that, because there's things in what's being considered net residential is different than acreage to be developed? Are they not the same thing?
I don't know, I'm not sure exactly what that reference is. The net residential calculation, which is how we determine how many lots that a parcel can support, is right on the right on the subdivision plan, sheet C 2.0, so
But
that,
I was just, I'm on land information of the application for subdivision. It just says acreage to be developed 1.95. And that was just different than the 2.8, and I wasn't
yeah,
sure
so
if it was.
that's, I would have to go back and check that, but I believe that number probably encompasses the road and the lots.
Okay.
Again, the lots won't be developed by the
Right.
applicant, the applicant's gonna build the road, but in total, once those lots are developed, I think that's what that number is. I'll have to double check though, exactly how we calculated that.
Okay. Ed, do you have anything?
I have a few things. I'll just leverage off of what Mike was just saying, though. On the cover page, Mike, it says the minimum lot size within the VR district is 40,000 square foot. Based on that calculation, the site can support up to 3 lots. So that's a very high-level statement. I think it's critically important that the plan shows the building envelopes clearly. And I like what Lee said earlier, perhaps by using a hatching but I don't think we should be, I mean, obviously that's what's gonna drive whether or not you really have 3 buildable lots here or not the fact that there are a total of 2.1 acres. Right.
Yeah, that's simply a statement about the net residential density calculation that's required by the ordinance, but so I agree with you.
Precisely.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's necessary but
Yeah.
not sufficient. Let's leave it
Understood.
at that. And
Yep.
so we're really going to be looking for clarity on the drawings, given the sensitivities and what we're learning of the sensitivities of the abutters as well.
Sure.
Okay. Given that, I'll ask the chair, what do y'all think about a site walk for this?
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah,
Before the snow,
Yeah.
be good.
right?
Better do it
Just
quick.
like to-
I second the before the snow.
Yeah, but
At
Well,
this
let it
point, I was
firm up a
planning to
little bit,
Walk
too.
up there by myself if
I
we
got
could
my
do a
muck
sidewalk,
boots now,
But
yeah.
I think it's a good idea to
buy
have
a
a
set.
sidewalk.
so if I could just put in that request, if we,
Before or after Thanksgiving?
whenever's convenient.
Don't we have to give
Sidewalks
2 weeks?
require
Yeah, 2 weeks notice.
have to be
They
noticed.
have to
as
be
a
noticed,
meeting,
yeah.
so-
Yeah, so it's gonna be after.
We don't have to do it at this minute, but I think before the final,
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
well, it'd be nice to do it if we could, as soon as we can notice it, just after Thanksgiving.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So we'll
Yeah.
talk to April, I guess,
If you could
Get her to
do that for me.
coordinate with
Work off.
Mike to have a site walk.
Sure.
Work off Thanksgiving dinner. Sounds like a
Yeah,
good idea.
Thursday.
So
Right, next Thursday.
ideally, we would do that with a set of drawings that had delineated clearly the intended building envelopes that we were looking at. If those can't be, I don't think that should hold it up, but that would be ideal.
I can certainly create those very quickly.
Okay.
Even better, little flags that show the building.
Or big
envelopes.
flags.
Big flags.
Okay, just a request, I think you got this message, but if by the next meeting, you could have a point-by-point addressing of the letter from, I think it was Scott Edwards, is that his last name? The lawyer. that the abutter sent.
I understand, yep.
point by
I know the letter you're talking
I
about.
think there were 3 major
Yep.
points in there, and what do you know about the pond? I know it's not on this property, correct? And you've said a couple of times that it's man-made. Is it man-made because they've dammed up the stream
So-
that we're worried doesn't exist?
So what I understand, maybe Jeff knows a little more of the history, but from what I understand, the owner, or maybe a previous owner of the lot out on Wilds District excavated the area,
Yeah?
and created it.
You think it's spring-fed?
I think it's either spring or groundwater is my assumption, but
You don't think there's nothing going?
there's certainly
no
not,
stream
there's certainly
feeding
not
it?
a big tributary area draining to it.
Okay.
But I thought you said the thing that could be a stream is an exit, not an entry.
It is.
So
I
it's-
said there's not, there's no
Yeah, so
big
it's
tributary
down-
area
it's
draining to it.
downhill from, going downhill from the pond down the wet thingy that's going down.
Correct,
So
yeah,
it's not a feeder.
correct, yeah.
But as at this point, the source of the water for that man-made pond is not known to you?
No. Again, I believe it's groundwater.
Is that something you think Jim would have a comment on?
He might, yeah.
Okay. The only other thing I had that's different is the groundwater, the stormwater treatment plan. And again, I'm going to request, this looks like something we should,
We
Ask
normally ask
Acorn to-
Acorn
to
to
review.
review that.
yeah.
Normally,
You think it's at the
Werner or
point where
Michelle
it's?
would be asking that to happen. So,
Right, right.
I can make sure that happens.
thank you. Yeah, so
I just want to, we would typically agree that that was a request of the board.
it is a request of the board.
Okay.
I mean, I can poll the board. Anybody else not want one?
No, I want it, I just don't want to do it if this proposed stormwater management plan is still in a state of flux.
I think it's ready for
Okay.
peer review.
Yeah.
All right, good.
What often happens is Acorn comes back with their answer.
I think that's been,
They're pretty quick. It's a 3-week time until the next meeting, but then again, Thanksgiving is in the middle of it. So,
no consultant firm like this ever doesn't come back with a few more questions at least.
right, of course they'll come.
And they're usually salient,
And
so.
they usually end up getting deferred to the you answer them in the
I
final.
think we'll have a,
But, yeah,
I just wanted to make sure it was ready
yes.
for that review. But in the process of doing that, one of the things I would ask Acorn in particular is to say, is this stormwater management system, is it safe to believe that it can be maintained by a 3-member HOA? And from what I read here, I worry about that, and I'd like to have their professional input. I'll read you here. Just in the introductory paragraph, it says, "At a minimum, the inspection and maintenance activities herein should be performed at the recommended intervals." Okay, by whom, okay,
Right.
the HOA. "A rainfall event of 1 inch in a 24-hour period would trigger a wet weather post-construction inspection." I'm trying to think of what that would mean on my 8-person HOA. Larry and I go out and
Right.
we check the culverts and all that. I just don't,
Yeah, I will
it
say,
seems a little bit, it's worrisome.
yeah, but I will say that this system doesn't have any complex,
Which is great.
features,
Here,
but understood.
it's one thing to worry about things that are going to affect the homes themselves, okay. If they're not doing their maintenance and it affects their homes, but stormwater is a concern for abutters. And if we've got a situation where their maintenance is critical toward abutters' safety and well-being, then we want to know that.
Yeah, well, the whole drive-in is gonna affect a butter, because it's all going right into the pond. The drive, any stormwater coming off of that looks like it's gonna hit.
I wasn't smart enough to figure that out, but that's the type of thing
Yeah.
that I'd like some
You're plenty,
professional
plenty smart enough.
feedback on. Well, maybe I was just too lazy to look at it, but so far. Okay, that's all I had. Thanks all.
So I guess the one kind of point that I just want to get clear in my head was, of the waivers, the 3 that are listed on page 3, the crossing of the wetlands, we've done those before. That's pretty, yeah, it makes sense. No worries there.
Well, yeah, just to get
And then
usual approvals from the government.
yeah, and then the sidewalks,
That makes sense to me, too.
Seems sensible. I just wasn't sure where we came down on the high-intensity soil survey. There's some,
We waive them quite often.
I think it's primarily for septic systems and.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
yeah, so
primarily
there-
in the
so
setback.
we don't have any questions about the three you really asked.
No, we'll
No, we're
officially-
inclined to agree with
When
this.
we approve this preliminary plan, we will approve the
Those,
three
with
waivers,
those, yeah,
assuming.
okay, but there didn't seem like there were any issues or comments around those. I just wanted to confirm that.
Well, in an area like this where you're looking at stormwater runoff, it's probably better for a development like this not to have sidewalks.
Yeah.
So you don't have any
Well,
more
it's gonna-
impervious
Yeah.
material.
Increase your roadway footprint too, I'm assuming, which is gonna impact more wetlands.
Right,
That's correct.
And it's gonna be a sidewalk to nowhere.
To nowhere,
kinda,
right.
Yeah, kind
I
of.
mean, you're already shrinking the size of the road
Yeah.
with the 2-to-1 versus 3-to-1.
Yeah,
Now we say, hey, by the way,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
5 feet of sidewalk next to it.
yeah,
Uh-uh.
okay.
I got a couple more
Oh,
questions,
go ahead,
actually.
go ahead, sorry.
I just thought of. Because, well, one, I noticed that you need a letter from the National Register of Historic Places to make sure there are no, Indian burial mounds, things like that. You know, graveyards that suddenly come up. We won't talk about skeletons. We're past Halloween. But as we get into more and more environmentally sensitive areas with these developments, it seems like, you know, in the land, as people are developing more land in Kennebunkport, we get into more of these areas with habitat problems. And I'd like a clear plan for your lighting, minimal lighting, because that can affect things like migration of animals, insect populations. And in your HOA, you might want to consider that lighting is restricted on houses in certain ways. And of course, I'll bring up birds as soon as you put in a housing envelope there that I can see. But this is very important in an area like this, to keep lighting to a minimal. And I can't see on here, I haven't figured it out yet, where you're planning to put lights, if you're putting in street lighting at all.
They're not proposed.
No, okay, good. Because the darker you keep it, the better you keep it.
So if there's no street lighting, what's attachment 11? Street light.
Did I?
Street light specification.
Did we show one at the end of the road? Sometimes we show,
I know you have one at the end of the road, but I'm not sure where
I
else
may have
you might put 'em.
misspoken there, I apologize.
I just wasn't sure where that one was going.
We'll review it and clarify that.
Okay.
So I just had one more thing. So can we go back to the agency arrangement? Okay. So I saw your application, but then I remember why this confused me, because I looked back at the letter that says that Beechwood Development authorizes Teradyne Consultants as agent. But we need something from Pendergrast authorizing Beechwood Development to be the agent. And,
Isn't that the P&L?
No, Beechwood Development is the applicant.
well, hang on, but they don't own it yet.
Yeah, but they have rights from the PNS that's been signed. They have some property rights from the PNS.
So, okay. So how does Pendergast Pendergast,
He's the present owner.
doesn't he need to be included in the authorization letter somehow? No?
Not typically.
So so basically Pendergast has assigned his rights to Beechwood Development.
For this
If he never-
purpose,
if
yes.
they never complete no rights have been infringed
Okay,
if they don't complete the PNS because they're not gonna develop it.
okay. So, for clarification, do you want to modify your first page of your application to show this relationship? So Michael Tadema Whelan is not the engineer, he is the agent,
Well,
right? And the applicant is Beechwood, and Pendergrass just goes away, right?
Well, no, he's
Michael
the,
is-
he's the
Michael is
property
a-
owner.
Michael is a PE, though. He is an
Well,
engineer.
hang on, but see, I'm trying to align all of these definitions between the application
Right,
and the
they're
agency letter.
confused on that page. I
So-
already brought that up earlier. They're confused on that page. He needs to straighten that.
So if you could just sort that out, please.
I'm sorry, can you let me know who you think should be the applicant?
But we
The
need a
applicant
copy
Slash
of this.
authorized
Beechwood
agent.
Development,
Yeah, and that's what it says on the application.
right. And the agent, however, you aren't listed as the agent. But there is
Well-
an authorization letter giving you agency.
See, that's the point, it's not clear. You can't just pick up the first page of the application and immediately understand what's going on if you look at the authorization letter. So if you could refer to the PPN, I don't know,
What you can do.
clarify this somehow, make it easy,
I might be able to help you a little bit, maybe.
yeah?
If you look at the fourth page of the purchase and sales agreement,
Yeah,
the purchase and sales is between Beechwood Development and Michael Pendergrast.
yeah,
And then on item number 22, under other conditions on the PNS,
yeah,
it's the offer is contingent upon the following. And one is town approval of a 3-lot subdivision. And then seller's agent to provide written binding approval from the owner of Rocky Pasture Lane for the easement and whatnot. But it's number 1 where it says town approval for the 3-lot subdivision. And then you gotta tie it back to Michael Tadema Wheeler being the agent on behalf of Beechwood.
Okay. If you just take that page, under the first page in the application, cross out authorized agent,
Okay,
and it'll be clear the applicant is the Beechwood Development Fund.
okay,
Then down below, above address there where your name is.
Yep.
Put in agent,
okay.
yeah,
okay?
would
Agent
be-
above where it says land surveyor.
yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be great,
Okay.
yeah,
There we go.
okay, thank you.
You're confusing me.
Yeah, we nailed that one down.
Okay. Is everybody done at this point?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, I guess what we need to do is declare it complete as a preliminary so that we may proceed to the public hearing.
So just to be clear, we're going to say it's complete when, conditional on the building envelopes being added to the diagrams, to the plan.
Well,
I don't want that be something that says, oh yeah, I'll have that when the final application is received. I don't think we can approve this preliminary without,
We're not
We're not
approving, we're
approving
saying
the
it's.
preliminary.
It's complete.
I understand. I
Getting
just want to see
ourselves
us
to
a
the next
plan. I want to make sure that we're all using the same words here.
Yeah,
Some things, I know you said, oh yeah, we'll have those the next time. It wasn't clear to me whether that meant the next meeting or the final application as opposed to the preliminary. And I think there's some of each in there. With respect to these plans, I think for us to have the next meeting, or we need to have the plans showing where the proposed building envelopes are.
Well, but there's more than that, there's the idea of the identification of the significant trees.
Yes, but none
Yeah,
of
yeah,
this,
yeah,
none of
those
this
things
would-
as well. I don't mean to diminish the need
Right.
for all of those things, but the plans in particular, I was worried
Oh, about
that
the
we
building
might have
envelope.
said that they weren't gonna come until the final. And I
the
didn't wanna let
plans will-
that go.
Plans change throughout the sorry to interrupt. Plans will change throughout the process. but
Absolutely, but
In
at
my,
least
in my
today's,
opinion, at least the application is complete. And obviously, we go through the review and we make revisions and this sort of thing.
I think that if you put a building envelope on there, a proposed building envelope, it might change later. Absolutely, guaranteed, it might change by the final, might even change after that, we said, if certain things with
Sure.
the wetlands situation is assessed differently. But for the purposes of us evaluating and, I know from your point of view, hopefully approving this preliminary application, I want to make sure we're all on the same page, that there needs to be
So,
clarity with
all right,
respect to
so
what you're
what you're
proposing.
suggesting is that we do not approve it, we continue the
No, no.
initial,
No, I'm not. I just wanted to be able to say with clarity that we are approving it with the agreement that those building envelopes were going to be added to the plan for review during this preliminary plan review.
How about if we make a proposal
Good.
that we find the application complete with the suggestions of the building envelopes being put in for the next meeting, and other suggestions,
things.
corrections on the application,
Yeah, I'm good
Agreeable.
with that.
Yep,
okay,
great.
all right?
so,
So that's
so moved?
so moved.
So moved.
Okay.
Second,
Okay,
Did you want to say something?
approved, yeah.
Yes.
approved.
Approve.
Approved.
Okay,
Proving that
so-
it is a complete
It's
application.
a complete application, which means that the next meeting, which is, I guess, the first Wednesday in December, which would be like the 5th or so,
It would be a public hearing.
that will be a public hearing, as well as presenting all of the stuff that you suggested, and ideally, we'll get this preliminary done by Christmas.
Sure.
So the big thing would be the building envelopes, the response to the letter, and to have Jim here to answer
Yes, and
questions
to have Jim
about,
answer.
Yeah,
about the wetlands. So those are, for me, the big three items
Right,
on the
and,
5th.
and it'll be and obviously the important thing is that the people who come in on Zoom or attend here will be able to speak.
Sure.
Also,
Absolutely, yeah.
which is very important.
Okay, and a site walk?
And a site walk, I'll ask,
Before first snow.
I'll ask April to try to get it in.
Obviously
maybe
coordinating
the
with you.
last week in November, if she
I'm
can
in
notice
town.
that.
Yeah, and we will stake, we'll stake the road and.
Cool.
So we can see what we're looking
As
at out
soon
there.
as possible.
As
Yeah.
soon as possible.
Okay,
But
She
that also
can-
involves getting, 4 or 5 of us to agree to a time,
yeah,
And you're
and
gonna,
you.
you're gonna kick off the Acorn thing as well.
And we're kicking off
acorn
the
request.
acorn, yeah. We
That's
we already
already
kicked
been
off the acorn, yes. So,
Deal.
that brings us,
Okay,
if I can
thank you.
find
Thank you.
my
Thank you very
agenda,
much.
back to item 23103, 14 and 24 Field Point Road, Walsh Engineering Agent. Look at that, it's Walsh Engineering himself. You didn't send Werner to come?
Maybe the next project?
That was cheating.
He's in training. Completely retrained.
Right?
Oh, great.
Oh, yes. Huh.
There you go.
All right. Thank you. You want me to start in on it and give you a little explanation? Okay.
Introduce yourself, Bill.
Bill Walsh with Walsh Engineering, and we're here on behalf of Timothy O'Neill Revocable Trust and the Linda D. O'Neill Revocable Trust. The O'Neills own both the parcel that's on the north side or the upper side of this sheet, as well as there's a small parcel where it says existing residence down on the bottom where that little building exists, a little cottage down there. They're owned by different trusts, but they are all the same family. The property in total is 14.7 acres on the big parcel. It extends off the page to the left, and 0.37 acres is the smaller parcel there. They have 85 feet of shoreline combined along the ocean there. The flood zone, which is the red line that you see on there, is the 100-year preliminary flood zone. It's at elevation 17. Thank you very much for the pointer. That's it there. And then as it goes down on the bottom of the screen, it actually goes up to elevation 25. So it's higher down there on that section than it is on the other section.
Oh, velocity zone, though.
Yep, that is of both velocity zones. The northern part of the site is really a cobble beach where you see the darker, yep, up there, all the way down through. That's all cobble beach all the way down, and it comes about there. It transitions into more of a ledge outcrop, and then it transitions back on after the smaller lot, it transitions back to a beach, where it is all the way down at the bottom of the page at the property line. There is a timber retaining wall that is right at the bottom, right, thank you, right up there. It's actually, you can kind of see it, it's a heavy dark line just below the purple there. And that is a existing timber retaining wall. The proposed project is stabilization of about 680 square feet, or I'm sorry, lineal feet of shoreline. So actually, I think if we can, if you flip the next slide, please. This is a photo of the beach this past winter after the December nor'easters that hit us, or December storm, I'll call it. As you can see, there is a revetment on the right of this that has some stones in it that, according to our calculations, are too small, and that sort of played out in this storm event where you can see the erosion back behind it right in the foreground. And if you go to the next image. Get my bearings, that's just up a little bit further along the beach, Cobble Beach to your right, ocean to your right, and some more erosion on the backside. Some of the Rosa rugosa that were there kind of got taken out in part of the storm. Next slide, please. This is looking, get my directions here, looking kind of to the south. That cottage is in the background. And again, just another picture of the erosion that happened. Some of the large stones are there to the left. That is, I'll call it a revetment for what it is, but it definitely is in need of some help. Next slide, please. This is up by the cottage itself. I think that's actually Mr. Bowley standing right there. That's the erosion that occurred kind of right in front of the cottage. There's a walkway. That's what you're seeing, those stones that have been pushed up. So you can see what happened was it sort of rode up on the ledge, and it took some of the overburden away from the sidewalk, obviously, away from the property. Next slide, please. So the proposed project is to put a revetment along this shoreline. And when you look at the property in total, the idea is to put on the Cobble Beach section up on the top is to put in larger stones. So we'll use the stones that are there, but they'll obviously be supplemented with new stones, much larger stones. We have, just get my number here. I think there's 6 to 7 foot stones that we calculated necessary. I'm looking down at the, yeah, right down in the calculation there. 160, oh, it's right off of the page. Anyways, there are 6 to 7 foot stones that will be put along there. And if we go to the next slide, I think you can get, these are some sections that we did through it. So if you look to the top left, this is in the Cobble Beach section. Sort of existing stones are the, open colored stones that exist there, the circles, and they exist kind of through that Cobble Beach, but all different sizes and kind of have been washed out, as you saw in those photos. And if you look to the right of that, the proposed, which is the dark stones right there, is the actual revetment. And as you can see on that, the velocity zone is that red line that crosses on it. So we're taking the elevation of that up higher in both conditions there, and on the bottom is where you have more of a ledge condition closer to the cottage, and that those stones will be put in, at least the face stones will be put in and pinned to the existing ledge, and those pins help to keep the stones in place. Bigger stones put behind it, it stops them from sliding, if you will, in a larger storm. Next slide, please. Actually, could you go back I'm going to go back one more, please. Thank you. So the overall project is that revetment, sort of standalone revetment on the cobble beach, and then pinning will occur around where the existing residence, the cottage is, and then as it turns the corner down at the very bottom of the page, it turns back into more of into a revetment, just a plain revetment. We don't think, there will be some pinning to maybe partway through that, and then it probably will turn back into cobble beach, so. Overall, that's the project that we have proposed.
A lot of rock.
I probably should say that timber retaining wall will be removed at the bottom, and that's replaced by a revetment.
Proceed here.
Well, thanks for that, appreciate this.
Sure.
So this is referring to the 1988 flood insurance rate maps, which are the legally binding version. Of course, there's been an update since then, which is still being challenged, I think.
It is, actually, the preliminary, what we refer to as the preliminary, those are the new ones, I'll call them.
Okay,
So we sort of skip over the 88 ones, we just go right to the prelims. There has been, I know there's been some back and forth with FEMA on those. We've been sticking with the latest that we have, let's put it that way.
okay.
I know some of them are dropping a little bit in Kennebunkport, I think, as they argue it through, but these haven't been lessened, if you will.
Okay. So I see you have the contour line shown there, but I didn't see any elevations, and I don't know if it makes very much difference, but in addition to the revetment because the whole idea is to protect the beach, but also the buildings behind it, right?
Absolutely.
So is there anything you might want to consider more immediately adjacent to the buildings in addition to adding the riprap? I mean, you don't have to answer now, but I'm just saying, because, I mean, the whole idea is to protect the property from
Right.
the encroachment of the sea, right? So
Right.
the revetment's a great idea. Is there anything you might want to consider closer to the houses that would hinder the encroachment of the sea level?
Yeah.
Particularly during storms.
Yeah, some of that has been accounted for when they built the house.
Okay.
They looked at that. I think the idea of the revetment is really knock down velocity of the waves that are coming in there.
Yeah.
Jeff built the house, so he could probably speak to it better than I can, but what I understand is that there are some drains out there in the pool. The property kind of mounds up and then goes back down, but there are some drains there and it has been graded to go, I'm gonna say, to the north. So if it were to overtop, I'm gonna call it the initial hump, if you will, then it does head northerly. It heads up and off to the top of the page, water does. So there was some pretty good thought put into it from what I could see.
Okay, thank you. And then I did see we got some, I guess DEP had some thoughts about the plantings. They said you might,
I think it was Jay's.
sorry.
Yes, we had, I wasn't expecting this to be on tonight's agenda, so I apologize. I didn't bring all of my paperwork. Since I just did the memo, I think it was today.
Yeah, it was just today, yeah.
So yeah, we had, with my resiliency folks in our office, we took a look at this as well for you. And we had some thoughts that additional vegetation, native type of vegetation, might be appropriate behind the buffer to expand that buffer area with more native vegetation, which would help soften some of that erosion that has been occurring over time, as well as in the beach areas, adding some additional native vegetation down in the either north and south portions of the property where the beach areas are.
What do you consider hardier than Rosa rugosa?
I'm not the
Bamboo.
expert on that. Abby Sherwin from my office, who works with you folks on sustainability resiliency issues, took a look at it. She's the one who suggested more native species and buffers. So I can certainly ask her to recommend some additional native vegetations if you'd like for your next meeting on that?
Because the only thing I can think of are grasses like spartina.
Some other roses.
Some kind of grass comes to mind.
I would assume that's what she was saying, but at this point, she only suggested to me that more native vegetation.
Okay.
I will
I
ask her.
don't know what shrubs those would be.
I will ask her.
Okay. I have a question. Are you keeping the stairs you indicate up there?
We do have, we are proposing some stairs through the revetment. So they will be, they'll be, when I say stairs, they're gonna be boulder or stone stairs that would go up through the revetment and be pinned together, so that they stay in place.
Aren't you worried about water coming up through there?
They would go up and over. They'll actually,
Oh, okay.
you'll step up and over the revetment and hit a plateau, if you will, and then go back down. We do that often on these projects, so instead of the large boulders, you end up with large, flat pieces of rock, that are all pinned together and epoxied together, so that you have a natural stone stairway through the revetment. That way, because if you have a wooden stair, it's gonna last 1 year, right? It's gonna get blown out.
Have they considered moving that house back a little bit?
The cottage? Not right now.
Okay.
Mother Nature may help with.
Yeah.
I think so. Eventually.
Okay,
All right.
any other questions? All right, so, I guess we can take a motion to declare it complete, and then we'll have the next meeting, we'd have our public hearing. And I'm already nominating my neighbor here.
Oh, yes, okay.
I'll make,
I see the word riprap, and I think.
Exactly.
I will second that thought.
But you're the second one who's gonna, you're the other.
That's
So
why I
two
got in
ripraps.
quick with my second.
Bill, when do you envision doing the work?
I'm sorry?
When would you optimally do this work?
As soon as we can get it approved is the
Over the
idea.
winter even?
Yeah, in the winter would be best, so I think that's the plan.
Just curious.
well, I'll move to find the application complete.
Second,
Okay, yeah.
okay? Ed,
Agreed.
Approved.
Approve,
Approve.
Approved.
okay.
Great.
So,
We'll see you on December.
okay, see you in December.
Okay.
See you,
Do we have
anyway.
a case manager for the what?
No, we need a case manager for the
Subdivision?
Mr. Bowley.
I'll do it if you want.
Oh,
Okay.
grand. Okay, good, so we have case managers, so that means what we have left to do is to read the statement, a finding of facts, read and sign the finding of facts on item 1 tonight. And then we also have a correction of a finding of facts that we wrote quite a while back in March. And it had the sizes of the lots incorrect. It was supposed to be it was a 10-acre lot split into 2 pieces, and it currently says 9 and 1, and it's supposed to say 7 and 3.
Oh.
And we have that correction, so
We can just sign that, can't we?
I think we can just just initial the correction and sign the device, sign the thing.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so that's around, I'll start that, but anyway, Ed has to read the other,
Right.
even though it may take more than 5 minutes.
Kennebunkport Planning Board findings of fact and decision, the application of Mark and Catherine Baditcher for 21 Norwood Lane in Kennebunkport, Maine, 04046. Following site plan reviews pursuant to the Kennebunkport Land Use Ordinance held on the 1st of November 2023 and the 15th of November 2023, and a public hearing held on the 15th of November 2023, The Kennebunkport Planning Board makes the following findings of fact and conclusions and renders the following decision, subject to the conditions enumerated below. Findings of fact are as follows. The applicants and owners of record are Mark and Catherine Baditcher, with a mailing address of 21 Norwood Lane, Kennebunkport, Maine, 04046. The applicants were represented in this matter by John W. Ensiedler, RA, with a mailing address of 148 C Road, Kennebunkport, Maine, 04043. In an email dated 25 April 2023, the applicants authorized Mr. Ensiedler to act as their agent. The property has a street address of 21 Norwood Lane, Kennebunkport, Maine, 04046. 4, the property is identified as map 34, block 2, lot 2 on the municipal tax assessor's maps. 5, the property is in the Goose Rock zone. The shoreline protection zone overlays the entire property. 6, the applicants demonstrated a legal interest in the property by providing a warranty deed recorded in the York County Registry of Deeds, Book 14008, pages 352 and 353 on 15 March 2004. 7, the lot is legally non-conforming. Per information provided by the applicants, the property comprises 6,678 square foot, less than the minimum 40,000 square feet specified by the land use ordinance. Additionally, the lot is 60 foot wide, less than the LUO specified 100-foot minimum. 8, the existing structure is legally non-conforming. Lot coverage is currently 39.6%, which exceeds the allowed 20% maximum. Per information provided by the applicants, buildings cover 25.8% of the lot, and other impervious materials cover an additional 13.8%. The left side lot setback is not met. The leftmost point of the home is nearly at the lot line versus the 15-foot minimum requirement. The right side fails by approximately 2 foot to meet its 15-foot minimum setback. The front of the home is currently only 40.4 foot from the Batson River high water mark, which does not meet the required minimum 75-foot shoreland zone setback requirement. And the rear of the home is only 21 foot from the Batson River marsh high water mark, which does not meet its minimum 75-foot shoreland zone setback requirement. 9, in an application dated 11 October 2023, the applicants proposed to remove the existing structure and rebuild utilizing the allowed 30% expansion. This application is an update of the previous application that was approved by the Planning Board in June of 2023. That previously approved application proposed adding a new foundation under the existing structure to raise it about 4 foot to meet FEMA flood requirements. After reviewing construction cost proposals for raising the existing structure, the applicants are now amending their proposal to remove the existing structure and build an entirely new structure using the same plans approved by the board in June. 10, consistent with the previously approved plans, the portion of the existing structure that is currently closest to the Batson River marsh, the barn/garage, would be moved further away from the rear of the lot, improving the rear shoreland zone setback nonconformance from 21 foot to approximately 38 foot. The front shoreland zone nonconformance would increase slightly, from 40.4 foot to about 38 foot. The property line left side setback wouldn't change. The proposal would increase right property line setback nonconformity from 2 foot to about 4 foot. The board was advised that the neighbor on that side is a relative and that they had no problem with that increase. In its previous review, the planning board agreed that the net result of all proposed changes would be an improvement to the existing nonconformances. The improvement of about 20 foot to the shoreland zone setback significantly outweighed the 2 foot reduction in the side lot setback. 11, the proposal includes expanding the square footage and volume of the living space within the allowed 30% maximum. Figures provided by the applicants, square footage would increase from 2,108 square feet to 2,509 square feet, about 19%. Volume would increase from 17,721 cubic feet to 22,747 cubic feet, 28.4%. 12, the proposed lot coverage would decrease, improve, very slightly, from 39.6% to 39%. 13, the applicants advised that the height of the structure would increase from 23 foot to 27 foot, consistent with the raised foundation and within the 30-foot maximum allowed for the Goose Rock zone. 14, the applicants advised the board that fill would be brought in, 30 inches at most, tapered to the front and side yard. The applicants plan to file a permit by rule application with MDEP for approval. 15, applicants requested no submission or performance waivers from the requirements of the Kennebunkport Land Use Ordinance. Pursuant to the requirements of Article 1010A of the Land Use Ordinance, Guidelines for Decisions, the Planning Board shall approve a site plan application unless it makes a negative ruling on one or more of the following identified findings which would otherwise compel denial. And then we're going to go through all of the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, and we have yes or not applicable findings for all of them. Non-controversial, I believe. And then, of course, this is a shoreland zone, so when a proposed development will be located within the shoreland zone or resource protection zone, in addition to the requirements of the Kennebunkport Land Use Ordinance Article 10, the townwide regulations in Article 6 and performance standards for specific activities and land uses in Article 7, approval of the development will also require that the board makes positive findings based on the information presented, that the proposed use will maintain safe and healthful conditions, will not result in water pollution, erosion, or sedimentation to surface waters, will adequately provide for the disposal of all wastewaters, will not have an adverse impact on spawning grounds, fish, aquatic life, bird, or other wildlife habitat, and all of those are findings yes. Will conserve shore cover and visual as well as actual points of access to inland and coastal waters, that's yes. Will protect archaeological and historic resources, that's not applicable here. Will avoid problems associated with floodplain development and use, yes. And is in conformance with the performance standards set in Section 5.6, erosion and sedimentation control of the land use ordinance, and that's a yes. Any negative finding by the board means the application has been denied. This application is otherwise complete. Conclusions. Article 1010A of the Land Use Ordinance mandates that the planning board shall approve a site plan application unless it makes one or more identified findings that would otherwise compel denial. As noted above, the board makes no such findings. Decision, the site plan application identified above is hereby approved. Conditions of approval. The applicants pursuant to 1012E shall notify the planning board prior to the transfer of rights to construct an approved project. 2, the applicants must record a copy of this decision and provide proof of that such recordation in the York County Registry of Deeds before any permits may issue or before any construction activity may commence. And 3, the applicants shall comply with all the terms and conditions of the Town of Kennebunkport ordinances. 4, a permit by rule must be approved by MDEP for the proposed fill. Dated 15 November 2023, Kennebunkport Planning Board.
I move we
Questions?
approve that document as read.
I'll second that.
Agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Agree.
Agreed.
And we'll sign these.
I'm going to move that the other one, that guy there, that we have, the other business, item 220201, the findings, we have modified the findings and we approve them, approve what we did.
Okay, I'll second that.
I'll agree.
Agree? Agree.
Agree.
Okay. So, I guess we're done. Can I have one more motion?
Move to adjourn.
I'll trade you.
Second,
All in favor?
absolutely.
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Excuse me.